So Sabina, do you want to start?
Yeah, so I wanted to say hello to everyone. I want to welcome you to our February session for the Ontario webinar series. My name is Sabina Mirza. I'm a postdoctoral fellow working with Dr. Suzanne Stewart at the Waakabinis Institute for Indigenous Health. I will be co-moderating today's session with Dr. Suzanne Stewart, who is the principal investigator for the Ontario NEIHR. We're going to have Elder Wendy Phillips do our opening for us today. So we're going to ask her to open us in a good way. And we have Roy Strabel, who is our Ontario NEIHR coordinator, with us as well. And so today we're really happy to have Anishnaabe Elder Wendy Phillips presenting her talk entitled Teaching on the Mind from an Anishnaabe Perspective. And I'm going to let Elder Wendy introduce herself more so if she'd like and open us in a good way. And I'd just like to remind the audience that the presentation today will be approximately 35 to 40 minutes, and then we'll have some time for question and comments, at which point either Clay will do a closing or Elder Wendy will do a closing for us. And with this, I will pass it over to Wendy.
Great, miigwech. Well, bonjour. Magazine dodem. We don't cause a bash got musician cause. Wasauksing the donji. Giving zipping and dunjaba. Jamandomac gay Potawatomi and Bell. Chimigwech can gay go gosh told. Chimigwech Nation gage got. Chimigwech Atsokan. Chimigwech Wabit on Mado, Jawan on Mado, Spinchmok Mado, Gewed Mado. Chimigwech Aki. Chimigwech Nimki Benashi. Chimigwech Majika. Chimigwech Mashomas, Nokomas, Wanana Bajo, Nemabe, Swabe, Nishode, Chicago, Mamak Westwa, and Shabe Suck. At this time, we give our acknowledgements to the one who has created everything and everyone for this good day. And we also give our acknowledgements to what we describe as our legends. And we also give our acknowledgements to the four directions. We also give our acknowledgements as well to the earth and to the thunder beings and to those many beings within our creation stories. Back to Sabine and Roy, and if there's any other welcoming words. Miigwech.
Thank you, Wendy. Suzanne Stewart here. I just want to take this opportunity to thank you, Wendy, for doing the spiritual opening, as well as sharing your wisdoms and your teachings and your knowledges with us in our Ontario NEIHR monthly webinar series. So Masi Cho, thank you in my language. I'm from the Yellowknife Dene First Nation, and I work together with Wendy and a whole slew of other wonderful people together leading the Ontario NEIHR with the help of, I believe we have 6 elders / knowledge keepers as part of our research team. And we have our wonderful students, postdoctoral fellows, including Sabina here, 2 postdoctoral fellows, as well as all of the students from the Ontario IMN, who are hopefully some of them are here today as well, that we work together with the IMN to address issues of Indigenous mental health and healing through research and community partnership. So having said that, I'm going to step back and let Sabina host the rest of the session. And if there's any questions about the Ontario NEIHR, feel free to email myself or Roy directly. Roy can put both of our emails into the chat for anyone who's interested in getting more involved with the Ontario NEIHR as a community partner, as a community research assistant, as a student research assistant. We always welcome anyone who wants to work with us. We never turn anyone away who wants to be part of the work. So Masi Cho, thank you, Sabina, Roy, and Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy, for your opening. And I'm going to pass it on to you now for your presentation.
Great. Miigwech. So there's many many noises in my background, and I'd like to say Gitchi Miigwech again for our host today and being able to set this up in a good way and bring us together in such a good way. So there's a lot of things that we've already done already. So we've given those acknowledgements. The one thing I wanted to share with a lot of you probably know of me or know we've done a lot of work in the Toronto community for the Bald Eagle Clan, and I'm from Wasauksing First Nation. I'm Potawatomi, which are the keepers of the fire, and Jamandomac, which are people with excellent memories. And those are the two dialect families of what is known today as the Ojibwa Nation. And my Anishnaabe name is Awidokazit. It translates to one who helps. And our family name is Bejgobi, and it's describing a person or someone who's standing alone. And for us, we do have a pretty big family. So we got lots of kids and grandkids. And I actually got to update this because we actually got another great grandchild. So it's been a very good month. And so and then for myself as a spiritual leader, there's also a lot of spiritual and ceremonial duties that I also carry. And so from myself, the teachings that I carry are specifically what we call the Medewan Society teachings, and specifically it's Old Medewan that for myself that we have carried in both sides of our family. So we're really fortunate in that way to have that knowledge passed on to generation. So a lot of the teachings I'll be sharing, a lot of them have heard them before. And so this is some things will be new, and then some things will be very familiar. So I know that when we do this type of presentations, and we tend to focus on historical colonial histories, and so that's something that for myself that we know a lot as to the colonial history that has been passed on to us. And so for a lot of us in our upbringing through Western education, we're pretty familiar with what is known as Bering Strait theory. And most indigenous nations around the world don't believe in this theory. And so there's a lot of issues as to this particular theory. And so for us, this is something that, when we talk about our creation stories, our legends, and, our history, it's very different. And so that's something I really wanted to mention. And when we talk about the concepts of our history, that understanding Indigenous peoples to Turtle Island, that there's many definitions and many groupings. And so this is something I always encourage people to understand, is especially in the Canadian context, that all these different definitions have very significant meanings. And so this is something I usually really encourage people to, if it's something that you're not too clear about, that you should be learning more about these definitions and how they relate to, the different territories you're in. And I'll be honest, this is something that, we all sometimes make this mistake now and again, is that there's so many Indigenous nations and communities, and this is something that we tend to get grouped together quite often. And so that's something that we usually tell people to be respectful as best as you can with this aspect of indigeneity, and also with nationhood, especially to respect those nations. So, and this is something that, you know, for the territory that we're in, that this is Anishnaabe and Haudenosaunee, and you know, the Huron and the Métis and many other nations today. And so I wanted to give acknowledgement that you know, the Haudenosaunee people are the people of the Longhouse, and their confederacy includes many nations, and you know, they also have many wampum belts. And you know, this is a 2-row, and this is a very significant belt as to relating to one another in nationhood. And so this is something even for our nation, as the Ojibwa Nation, we actually have a specific wampum belt with the Mohawks. And so it is something that is to the hope is peace. And so this is something in our territory that we often refer to, and that's the Beaver Bowl. And this is, again, a very important treaty. And again, if you're not familiar with these treaties, I really encourage you to, you know, learn about them, and especially how they relate to, you know, the territory you're in. And then truly, then how can you, you know, use them in your own work, in your own, you know, area. And that's something that, you know, we really encourage everybody to do. And whether you're Indigenous or non-Indigenous, that these for us are living treaties. And you know, for us, they're to how to treat one another. So for us, there's many definitions to Anishinaabe. And so there's a few things, I guess, to really understand about our language is inanimate and animate. When we talk about definitions, especially in our language, it's very descriptive. And so this is something that for us, one definition on average can be broken down at least 7 times. And some of our, what we describe are, whether you want to call them keywords or like spiritual words, that the idea is that they can then be broken down like 28 times or more. And so these are just some when we talk about Anishinaabe. And so I really wanted to mention this for today, because this is really important as to understanding the mind and the teaching. So I will be referring back to this again. So one of the main translations is describing a human being. It's describing also a good being, a water being, 2 beings, a spiritual being. Man and woman is also within, also a 7th being, and also describing that we are perfect beings. So these are some of those definitions when we talk about Anishinaabe. And so it's for us, when we talk about this, it's you know, for many Anishinaabe, we tend to focus on just a few. And you know, we get caught in this too with definitions that you know, the common dictionary today, you know, just usually refers to you know, 2 definitions or 2 breakdowns, and that's sort of what we're used to today. And so we see that often in definitions, that people will just usually describe 2, and you know, in some cases you might get 3, or and that's sadly about it. And so this is something, you know, we talk about with our language, is that, you know, we desire, you know, to keep it alive and to keep it continuing. And so this is something that for us, when we talk about our language, that you know, this is a very important aspect to keep it alive, to ensure that future generations will understand, you know, the language, and understand the, you know, the different components. Like, this is we talk about our creation story. Sorry, totally jumped that one. And so this is part of us as a being, that that we have an aspect of, you know, for us, when we describe things, like our worldview is I guess the best way to try and describe that today is we break things down in a mental, a physical, a spiritual, and what we describe the Chibwam, and that's our worldview, and that's just the basic definition. So like I said, the Anishnaabe word, the idea is that can be broken down into 4 components, and that's what the idea of it is that we should be able to break it down a minimum of these 4, and that we should be able to, you know, break it down even further. So this is, you know, for us, there's specific teachings to each of these, and that there are specific teachings to the Chuba woman. This is, I think, when we talk about the Chuba woman, this is the closest definition we can come to it is what we describe as our aura. And you know, something we use quite often, and it doesn't get the credit that you know, we really think that it should, because as humans we tend to make a lot of judgment based upon it. And so it's a real important concept. So this is something that we talk about quite often, and we'll come back to that a little bit later. For us as spiritual beings, and our philosophy is that we are spiritual beings first, and then physical, and then the mind. And that's what we're really talking about today. And so a lot of our teachings, there's, you know, numbers that are significant to us, and, you know, 3 being one, 4 another, the others, 7 is another significant number. And so this is for us how I was taught, you know, on the mind, and that as a human being, as Anishinaabe, that we have a consciousness, and this consciousness really is what for us is our, you know, logical way of thinking. And this is, you know, when we talk about like the present and the here and now, this is your conscious mindset. And this is for us when, you know, we talk about this frame of mind, that it's very important to understand this consciousness, and that the others can be very different. And so this is something, again, that you know, the subconscious is something that for us is usually when for us the body functions in ways that we may not always be aware that you know, the body's functioning in that way. And so this is the reality is that the body, you know, takes thousands and thousands of decisions to make it operational. And so this is what the subconscious is dealing with. So the, you know, like in a regular healthy, you know, Anishnaabe person, that the idea is you can have like almost, you know, 50,000 thoughts a day in functioning your body, depending on, you know, what you're doing. And the idea is in a subconscious scenario that even when you're unwell, so say if you're in a coma, that your subconscious is still, you know, operating anywhere from 5 to 10,000 thoughts a day to keep it functioning. And so the idea is the subconscious is always operating the shell. And so this is for us a very important concept. And this is for us, a lot of teachings come as to understanding the subconscious, especially as a healer, as a ceremonialist, that understanding how the subconscious works is very important. And especially how to help people in their day-to-day. So there are a few more. So there's one describing the spiritual, and this is for us, you know, when we describe this, that it only lasts for a very short time, this part of the mind. Some may call it like enlightenment. You know, some might have like a spiritual experience, and this is what it's talking about, is that experience might only last a minute, but it's that spiritual consciousness that you think in just for that like minute, and it's that like frame of mind that you know, because you experience that, a lot of people desire to want to experience that again. So some people may then go like the rest of their lives truthfully trying to get back into that mindset. And sadly, some might not ever get back to that. And so this is what this is describing, is it is possible that you know, people may not have that type of experience again. And but it's for our like elders, they would say that it's possible to continue that frame of mind, and that type of existence is possible. And but it's very difficult to get there in this day and age today, the way that we're thinking today. This is something, when we talk about traditions and customs, that it takes a lot of memory to do this state of mind. And this doesn't necessarily have to be ceremonial. And so meaning that you know, there could be a process that needs a routine, for instance. And so this is where, you know, the mind needs to memorize, you know, a certain pattern or process. And this is, you know, whether it's short or whether it's long, that this is the frame of mind that is needed. And I'm sorry. And this is something that for us when we talk about this frame of mind, it can for us be very good in things of ceremonies, and because for us, a lot of our ceremonies are there's a lot of memory to them. There's a lot of speeches. There's a lot of things that are they have a process that needs to be followed, and so this is very important for this aspect. But we also talk about this component of the mind that we use it in our day-to-day lives as well. So meaning this could be part of your work, this could be part of your education, how you learn. But the idea of this part of the mind you could be using quite often. This is something of when we talk about the ego, this is a huge concept in our teachings. And I know that I wish I, would have dedicated more time to this one, but we have the ideas with every teaching. There's to be a teaching on the ego, and that this is something for us that exists, and the main teaching that we're to remember is not to allow your ego to control you, that you need to control it. And so this is something that for us, that there was always within our teachings, a very important aspect of this, that to be very conscious of this way of thinking, and not to allow it to control the things that you do. And so this is something that was a very, very important concept. The next one is death. And this means that somebody may experience a close to death experience, meaning that they could have had like a car accident or something that was sudden. And it could also be that somebody had surgery and they may have died for a minute or two. And so this is what we talk about, is this experience of death, that it changes the mind. And so we have a lot of teachings on this when a spirit crosses over and comes back. And so this is another and a very important aspect of the mind. The next one, this is one that again, that's important. And this is what we describe as a toxic mind. And so my parents were the ones that really explained this one to me. And, I'm really thankful that, they spent the time to explain this. Because when I was young, I didn't understand it. And so this is something that, for myself, I was very fortunate to hear this. And it really came through learning about justice. And, myself, I was learning our history, and I was very young, and I was really angry learning our history and about especially all the injustices. And so I was really upset about the prison systems and how it was set up. And so they explained this to me, that we need to be careful of a toxic mind, and they would refer to that. And I didn't understand it. And so they explained it. They said, well, our justice system, we didn't have prisons. And you know that the idea was the terminology they used was the closest tree would provide justice. And so this is something, you know, I really encourage people to, you know, think about like our old ways of thinking. You know, they're different in how we think today. And so this is one of the challenges is, you know, in a community, you know, you for us, we didn't have that aspect of judgment. Yes, everybody had a voice, but there was a time that you were allowed to share that. And so meaning usually we had clan meetings, and that's where you were allowed to voice your opinion, your thoughts, your feelings, and share those things. And once that was done, then that was it. It was done. And you would go around, you know, then doing your duties that you needed to do. And so your job in the community was not to like gossip, not to judge. Judgment was only allowed in those clan meetings. That was the only time. And so this is when we talk about our leadership, that our chiefs and our clan mothers were the ones that burden judgment. So this is where, you know, our teachings are for our leadership. And so when a decision of judgment had to be made, it was their decision. And because the idea was you not allow the community to make those types of decisions because of then the outcome of the community. And so meaning that you didn't want any mobs, you know, like rallying up, you know, you wanted to keep peace. And so this was for us, you know, how our traditional systems worked. So when there was a victim and when there was a perpetrator, you only had 2 days to deal with that situation. And after those 2 days, they would describe, that's when a toxic mind would begin. So if a victim did not see a perpetrator have any consequence, then that victim will begin thinking what they experience then is allowed. And same thing with perpetrator. If the perpetrator is allowed to think that there's no consequence after those 2 days, then that toxic mind will begin that it's okay to think like it's okay to behave like that. And because there's no consequence, no judgment, nothing. And so this is where those toxic minds can begin. And so it is possible to change a mind once it has become in a toxic setting. There's a lot of things we need to do in those circumstances. And so these are the 7 how I was taught about the mind. And this is something that, for us is difficult today. This is something that, especially for our people, we deal with a lot of negativity in our communities and our families, and there's a lot of struggle. And so this is, I think, some of the difficulties we face today is there's a lot of things that make these things really hard to do today. And so this is where we talk about, to get a good mind, it's understanding all these 7 aspects of the mind, and to understand how they function. And so this is some of the things that was shared with me. For this presentation, I wanted to also talk about other aspects of the mind, and one was looking at healers. And that for us, we train differently. Western education, focuses on academia, and usually, there's a system of grading, and that for us usually it was a pass or fail. Usually students can pick the institution they want to go to, the classes they want to attend, and for us that's not the case. Usually the teachers pick the students, and then the teachers would decide as to, based on the level of skill and knowledge, that what was appropriate for that person to learn. And so the way of learning was very different. When we talk about different healing, like for identifying, our assessments were very different. We had different people that would help with assessments, and so for us, we had seers. So that meant that a seer could see an individual's mind, but they could also see their body and their spirit, and this concept of the Ojibwa woman. There's other things that they can also see as to what we talk about is the environment, or anything that might pertain to ancestors, or other things that also may be an issue for that individual. Helpers can also help with assessments. That meaning, for us as Anishinaabe people, usually we do rely on our helpers to help us with the process of assessment. Usually our assessments are long. It usually takes us like a little while to do an assessment, and so it's something that for us, we try to do our best today. It's a little bit more harder, because it's an issue of time. And then for us as healers, this is another aspect that for assessments that this is, I think, the difficulty is there's so many different types of healers, and how they've been trained to do those assessments is all different. And so again, this is, I think, some of the important things to mention, especially in the aspect of mental health. The journey itself, and this is something I really wanted to mention, is that for us as Anishinaabe people, Indigenous people here to Turtle Island, that the foods and the medicines that 85% of them have come from here. And so there's a lot of knowledge that for us, when we talk about these things and people's well-being, that it's really good to acknowledge that a lot of things actually come from here. And so there's many, for us, when we do talk about the foreign medicines, that there's the four that are very common today, and a lot of people focus on, and that's tobacco, sweetgrass, cedar, and sage. And for us, there's so many teachings on that, and this is what I really wanted to mention regarding the medicines, and especially when we smudge, is that each of these medicines have a very unique attribute as to how it helps us as a human being. And this is something that can be very different from person to person. And this is something that we hope that people will understand, that when we burn medicines, that the nose or the mouth like instantly reacts and to that medicine. And so this is why when we burn our medicines, why it's so important, because it's one of the quickest ways for medicine to enter the body. And there's different reactions as to when somebody is inhaling it compared to when it's coming through their nose. So there's other teachings as to when we ingest medicines, whether they're chewed or they're, if you drink them or if you bathe in them, or if it's a lotion or a tincture, there's different teachings as to how to prepare, one, those medicines, and then two, then how that person is to consume them. So this is for us really important, especially with issues of mental health. And this is some of the things that when we do talk about, the different medicines that can help the mind, this is really important to understand, because, medicines work in different ways. And this is, some of the things we hope that people will, be open to, but this is, I think, some of the things that, we need to acknowledge. So the other thing is diet, like food intake. The other aspect for us as well, when we do a lot of our assessments and ceremonies, is there's a component of feasting. So there's a lot of different teachings on feasting, and a lot of different protocols pertaining to this as well. So again, very, very important concept as to, how to prepare a feast and what types of foods are used and how they're prepared, and then how to take care of that food afterwards. So very different from community to nation, can really be different. I did want to also mention healers. There's many different types of healers as well. And so for us, we do have hand healers, we do have energy healers. For us, we also have tube suckers, and different drums and rattles and pipes can be also ways of healing. Also feathers, different animal parts, and also like I've seen different healers use also different elements as well. So this is for us, some of the ways healers have been trained, and how they can help people in circumstances. So this is for us, when we talk about the ceremonies, that there's different ceremonies that can help us. And this is a picture of Kim H's. So this is downtown Toronto, and this is their location. And we also have different facilities today, and this is what I did want to mention as well. And hospitals are now providing spaces, and this is for us. We're seeing some innovative places today, and so we're seeing places change. And lastly, I just wanted to mention just ethics and accountability for us as knowledge keepers, that we have a process of learning and earning. And, this is something I always ask people, that, as a learner, you have the right to, share, that experience. And that's something that, you should have that right. And it doesn't give you the right to teach it. And that's the difference. And so the earning process, can take a long time, and it's different from nation to nation, and, community to community, and society to society. And, so that's something I did want to mention, because it's all about respect and, honoring, traditional ways of knowing. And, we're in this process of decolonization, and, I really hope that a lot of you can remember. I know it felt like time has just flown by, but I'd like to say a Gitchi Miigwech, a big thank you for listening today. And I hope that my camera will work again. So there's Clay.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Wendy. I really appreciated your emphasis on the importance of understanding and acknowledging that, you know, Indigenous people are not a homogenous group. And it's something that's been a theme we've covered in a lot of our other meetings as well. And so for those of us who don't know the differences, I like that you emphasize that we need to keep listening and learning and figuring out. I also felt really interested in how like all the numbers and the significance with the mind. So I really appreciated that part of your presentation. Before I ask Clay to close our meeting for today, I wanted to know if anyone had any questions or comments, and you can put those in the chat, and then I can read those out for Wendy and have her answer some of your questions. Okay. We have a question if this is recorded to watch again. Yes, I think it's being recorded. So that'll be on our NEIHR website. So Wendy, we have a question. How do you know when an earner has earned the right to teach?
So this is for us when we do take on students that usually the permission is then granted for them to teach. So this is something that for when we train people that they are to say that they have the permission to do so. And so that's the difference when we talk about our students and what they're permitted to do. And so that's what I mean, like as a learner, you know, you can talk about your experience, you know, like when you go home and, you know, you're talking to your friends, it's like, you know, yeah, I heard, you know, this today, you know, like that's sharing your experience, you know, and that's what we're saying, that's okay. And so this is something, you know, like we always tell people, like if you want to then, you know, refer back to this material that we always ask that you reference, you know, that where you're hearing Indigenous knowledge, and, you know, whether it's Clay or any other elder or myself, that, you know, you refer to the people that you're hearing it from. So like I said in the presentation, it's just all about being respectful. So.
Thanks, Wendy. I think there's another question in the chat. It says, you had mentioned the spiritual mind was kind of like an enlightenment. What are some practices, ways that people would access that aspect of the mind? Sorry if this is not an appropriate question to ask.
So that part we call the spiritual mind, and this is to be honest, like it can happen at any time, you know, but we encourage people to go to ceremonies and do your ceremonies, and those are ways that you can be able to get to that enlightenment, that part of the mind. So it's very hard to predict, you know, like from individual to individual when that will take place, but we encourage people to take that time.
Suzanne here. I just want to remind everyone in the audience to please click on the survey link. There's a very brief survey. It'll take maybe 2 minutes of your time to fill it out. That gives us important feedback to ensure that we're meeting the audience's needs in these monthly webinars. And feel free to write any comments you wish in there. It's completely anonymous. It's just a survey link. We have no way to trace it back to any of you as respondents, but we really appreciate the feedback so that we can continue to offer these in a good way to people. So please complete the survey. And I have a question, if that's okay. Do we have time for another question?
Yeah, we have about 5 minutes.
Well, we don't want to take up all the closing time either. So I just have a question. This is a question that I get asked a lot in classes that I teach. And that is, who can use the medicines? Because I heard you talk a lot about medicines, like about smudging and about how our different medicines are used in different ways. Smoke, ingesting, on our skin. There's so many ways. And for someone like me, that's a pretty easy answer. But I think there's people who may not be as integrated into Indigenous ceremony and community who may wonder, if they can use the medicine or who can use it.
Mhm. This is, I think, a very common question. And this is, I think when we're talking about using medicines, especially for like for yourself or for a human being, that this is, I think, aspects is make sure that those medicines are that even if they're store bought or like somebody gifts them to you, so you're not able then to make sure that you put tobacco down for those medicines, that you are then purposing them for you or for another human being, and that you're asking then for those things to be used then in a good way. The other part of this question is Indigenous people, and this is where it gets really sticky. And so this is, I think, some of the hard things with our medicines is so many things are really Indigenous, meaning they're from here. That's why I mentioned that. We don't give credit to those things that are actually from here. And so that's what I really wanted to mention today, that we're talking about decolonization and recognizing actually where things come from. And so many things are from here. And so it's to give that acknowledgement that they people think that they're from other, actually from here. So this is, when we look at it in that context, then we have permitted other nations from around the world to use those items. These items are now used all over the place. Like just think of our corn and potatoes and tomatoes and things like that. Those are all Indigenous foods that are like medicines for us. And this is, I think, some of the things that we gotta remember, that is just not a lot of the sacred medicines that we think of today. Like we've gifted so much from here that we need to remember that. And I think for us with our brothers and sisters, so non-Indigenous, that it's really about that respect again. And to me, I think that I really want to encourage people. It's about their respect, and this is so that to me, I think, is the most important thing, because sadly we've experienced a lot of cultural appropriation. And to be respectful and to show that respect, it's the cultural appreciation that we really need to hear and see today more often.
So basically following the cultural protocols with our medicine is what anyone who uses our medicine needs to do. Would that be correct?
Yeah.
Miigwech.
Okay, so thank you so much, Elder Wendy Phillips. We're honored to have you here today. So thank you for your presentation. And if there are no other questions in the chat, then I'm going to pass it over to Clay. And I also want to thank everybody for being here with us today.
Rich, thank you. Again, thank you, Wendy, for your such beautiful presentation, your beautiful words. And when I heard the word Elder Wendy Phillips, I was like, wow, yeah, no, she's such a young, beautiful person, you know, all of this. So, and so I just want to say, but I see, and I was just wondering, and I was just thinking about how the presentation, your words, what you were bringing. So I just want to say this about that. It's just, you know, you talked about human being a lot in the different ways of seeing that in all the different categories in different ways. And I just wondered, and I sort of see everything, what we're trying to do and what you're trying to do. And this is where it leads to my prayer later. But the work you're doing and people like you, all of this, you're trying to bring being to a world that doesn't understand being anymore. Because this is the way I see it. And so many of us, they seem to be stuck in the dimension of human, but not understanding the dimension of being, what it is to be a human being. And I just want to thank you for doing that, for bringing the being back into this world that are trying to understand that spiritual part of being a human being. So with that, I would just want to say miigwech to you for everything you do and the hard work you do, because I think people like yourself don't get that, because you're all humble and you're all practice humility and all of this. So with this, I just want to say, because I came to the late all the reasons why I came was, you know, Zoom. My computer decided to update when I tried to log in, all of this. But anyways, so with that, I want to say miigwech. I just want to say with this simple prayer in this language, and I just ask the Creator to bless you and your family and all the people you work with. And I say miigwech to them. Say miigwech to the earth, the sun, the sky, and creation. And I ask the ancestors, your helpers, and the good ancestors to be with all of us, to be with us. It's such a challenging time. And I say miigwech to them, to give us strength, to give you strength and your family in these difficult, challenging times. And I say miigwech to you again, Creator, for there is nothing beyond you, Creator. I thank you for this beautiful gift you have given us, called our lives. And I ask for the blessings of Wendy and her children and her partner and all of the people she works with. And I say thank you, Creator, for this beautiful day, for bringing us together in this very virtual circle. So with that, I say miigwech to you, Creator. I say thank you for the gift again, all my relations. Miigwech, guys. Thank you, Wendy. And it's good to see you, my friend.
Miigwech, Wendy, and Clayton, from myself, and thank you to all of the audience members as well.
Thank you, miigwech.
And thank you, Roy, for technical support.